15th chapter is another historical and prophetic event. It's two different events, all right? Because Genesis, the 15th chapter, was referring to us coming over here to the Americans. It wasn't referring to this, the land of Egypt over in North Africa. To this, the land of Egypt over in North Africa. Chapter was referring to us coming over here to the Americans. It wasn't referring to this, the land of Egypt over in North Africa. Genesis 15th chapter is another historical and prophetic event. It's two different events, all right? Because Genesis, the 15th chapter, was referring to us coming over here to the Americans. It wasn't referring to this, the land of Egypt over in North Africa.
All right, Shalom. This is Howard 1 by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Harakah Kodash, Ma'amath. All right, double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. And Shalom to you, Akim, and Agwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. This is going to be a quick lesson dealing with this topic, dealing with this 400-year prophecy that a lot of these churches bring out. A lot of these Africanized jakes bring out. And now you got this guy, I think is Priest Bunyamin, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, it's cool. But that's like the guy from HODC that you saw in the video in the beginning. And he goes back to the old school. And the last videos I saw him in, he was with, I'm talking about the old videos with Nate, teaching a lot with him when Nate was in his right state of mind. You know, so whatever. But I know this guy from years back, and I know that they started going off on doctrine. This guy Bunyamin, I think that's his name, you know, light-skinned guy with the beard. He got the look of an Israelite, big beard, strong spirit, demanding, looking, you know, all of that. You gotta watch them type of people, man. You got a lot of people in the truth like this that act this way, that create this character, you know, like a superhero or some shit. Instead of growing in the knowledge and in the wisdom and in the faith, they're growing in this ego that they build up. All right. So not to spend too much time talking about him specifically, I want to get into the topic. What he brought out was Genesis 15, and he said that's talking about America, and that is not talking about us going into Egypt and coming out of Egypt. Completely went off. All right. So there's gonna be a response to Apostle Hard's video that he put up. He shared the video of this guy, so that's where I got it from. So before I get into it, I want to bring these two scriptures out. This is Ezekiel 37 and 8. And it says, "And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them." All right. So once somebody get into this truth, they get strong. They get strong in the understanding that they're Israelite. You know, and that's part of the sinews, because the sinews represent the muscles, the joints, the ligaments. Okay, on the body, with the bones come together. Then you get muscles, sinews upon it. All right, that represent the strength. You know. Now it says, and the flesh came up upon it. Right, people start calling themselves Israelites. And the skin covered them above. All right. So they call themselves the Israelite. They start calling themselves from certain tribes and all of this. But there was no breath in them, man. All right. So you see these guys, they call themselves Israelites, and they were teaching for a long time, but they don't have no breath. Teaching, you know, they don't teach the prophecies correctly. They don't teach the doctrine correctly. All right. This is Isaiah 8 and 20. to the law and to the testimony. See, this is part of the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So this guy has lost the light. He don't have the breath in him, man. All right. So I don't care. I don't care if he tell you he's an elder, he's a teacher, whatever, demanding spirit, authoritative spirit, whatever you want to call it. And because they have gray hair, that don't matter. All right. It's all about the understanding and the spirit of truth. Okay. So they speak not according to this word because there's no light in them. So this guy said that Genesis 15 is talking about America. Now let's find out. All right, this is Genesis 15 and 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him, man. So he saw, Abraham saw us going into Egypt and being in Egypt and going through a persecution. All right, so Abraham saw that. He saw people going into a dark place, into bondage. Verse 13, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger, all right, or a foreigner, or, in a land, or really like an alien, in a land that is not theirs, man. Okay? So we became estranged to the Lord, became strangers, and we were also strangers in that land. Let me get this word stranger real quick. All right, so that word there for a stranger would be gar, okay? You got goyim, or gawayam, which means the nations, but this right here would be gar. We didn't have any inherited rights in Egypt, okay? So it says here, a guest, a foreigner, so we were guests in Egypt, a temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights. So we were temporary inhabitants in Egypt, all right, just to make it simple. So we were there for 430 years, and that's the prophecy. But this guy seems to think that it's talking about America, all right, when we were here over 430 years. Okay, Genesis 15 and 13, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger, basically sojourners, all right, to dwell in a place, in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So we was afflicted for 400 years. And also that nation, right? So we serve the Egyptians, those Canaanites, Hamites, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. All right, and after shall they come out with great substance. See, that's what he going off at, because the Lord's going to judge the nation that we're serving now, Esau, but we're not coming out of here with great substance. The substance that we coming out of here with is just the spirit of truth. That's it, being delivered. We're not taking anything with us. We're not taking none of this clothes and Nikes and shit with us. Jordans and shit. So, and jewelry and money. What the fuck we gonna take with us out of this place? See, we needed it when we came out of Egypt because we were gonna be in the wilderness, right? Food and substance and resources. So now, and it says what? And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age, right? I think Abraham was born around 2166 BC, and he died around 1991 BC. So let's see what that is. Let me do a calculation real quick. All right, so he was around approximately 175 years old, Abram, okay? So he died in a good old age. So that prophecy happened. All right, so let's continue with the rest of this prophecy. Genesis 15 and 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And the Lord judged the Egyptians, especially all the way up until about 664 BC. All right, with the fall of Thebes, and also how the Lord judged the Pharaoh and the waters with the Red Sea, dealing with Moses. Okay, he drowned the army and the Pharaoh. Said the Pharaoh died in the sea. They try to say he got away, but the scriptures say he died. So. And then also the Lord was judging these Egyptians with Pharaoh Necho. All right, and in the battle of Carchemish with Babylon, the Lord had the Babylonians take them down too, and the Assyrians. So the Lord wasn't done with Egypt after the Exodus. All right, the Lord was still judging them. And afterward, they shall come out with great substance. So he came out of there with great substance. All right, I'm gonna prove that according to scriptures. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age, man. Okay. So, and it says, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again. All right. So the fourth generation, what that means is almost 2,000 years later, because this happened around the time of Abram, which he was born in 2166. Right, he died around 1991. So the Lord was telling him somewhere between that time that we were going to return to that land that was promised to Abram. All right, we were going to serve him there, serve the Lord there. All right, so, but in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again. If you want to understand generations, just read the book of Matthew, the first chapter, where it tells you about the 14th generation. It explains the timelines from David to so-and-so, from Abraham to David, it was 14 generations and so on and so on. So, but in the fourth generation, they shall come hither. All right, around the time of Joshua and Moses. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full, right? Because the Lord was letting these Amorites and these other nations, that the Africans that dwelled in the land, to commit their iniquity, and the Lord was going to judge them. He sent the judgment upon them. All right, and the judgment was actually us. We were his battle axe and weapons of war. So the Lord judged the Amorites with Joshua. All right, he had the Lord had Joshua destroy the Amorites. I think it's in Genesis 10, something like that, or Exodus 10. I gotta check. I probably won't get into that right now. But yeah, he destroyed the Amorites with Joshua. All right, he delivered the Amorites into Joshua's hands. So that was the end of them in that land. And it came to pass, so now let's get into it, man. So this prophecy already happened with the Amorites as well. So what is he talking about? The Lord ain't worrying about these damn Amorites today. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. All right, it says Amorite, or Amaria. And the Lord said he had us leaping upon the mountains, man. That means he had us conquering these strong nations. Okay, when we went to the land of promise, the land of milk and honey. So when we went there, we had to clean the land of those peasants, those damn wicked nations, man, them Africans. It says Amorite, a sayer, one of the peoples of East Canaan and beyond the Jordan, dispossessed by the Israelite incursion from Egypt. See, when we came from Egypt, we went straight at them damn Amorites and the other African nations, the Perizzites, the Hittites, or whatever, Hittites, whatever you want to call them. All right, so now that's why the scriptures say through thy precepts we get understanding. So Psalms 105 and 23, Israel came into Egypt right? We went into Egypt. That's the focus. So you got to look at the entry and the exit. That's the time period of 430 years, man. 400 years, the 400-year prophecy that was told to Abram. You know, and Israel came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. Okay, so we sojourned in the land of the Hamites, which are those Amorites, the Canaanites. You know, was it their land? No, it belonged to the Lord. The Lord gave it to us. He had those heathens there inhabiting it in iniquity, and the Lord sent us in there to gave us laws and gave us those lands. All right, and that's just it. It belonged to us. That promise He gave to Abraham. So we went into that land. When did we go into that land? All right, it was 1876 BC. All right, because right here at this point, you had the 7-year famine that was going on with Joshua. All right. And now, also, the prophecy, that's right, come thinking about it, the prophecy dealing with Joshua. And Joshua told the dream to that Pharaoh. I think his name was, I got his name written down. I think so. There you go. Sesostris. All right, Sesostris the first. Sesostris the first. And that's the one that Joseph was talking to about the dream that that he had. He had a dream of the Pharaoh's dream. That goes with Genesis 41 and 46. You can read that later. So Joshua had a dream that there was going to be a 7-year famine, and he told it to this ruler named Sesostris the first. And Sesostris became a co-ruler, co-regent with this other pharaoh named Amenemhat. All right, and I'm going to show you that too in a minute. And all this is important. So first he had the dream of Joseph, the 7-year famine, which is all part of prophecy. And the Lord used that to move Israel or Jacob into Egypt. All right, and then all right, so hopefully following along. So we have the dream of Joseph, the 7-year famine, and then you have 1876. All right, BCE, before the Common Era. That's when Jacob went into Egypt, man, from the famine. He was already a year into the famine. The famine ended around 1872 BCE. So you add 7 to that, it'd be 1879. So, okay, this guy, Amenemhat and Sesostris the first, they became co-regents in 1878. So you see how the prophecies work. 1878, 1877, 1876, Jacob goes into Egypt. All right. So let's get into it. Genesis 47. This is when Jacob showed up at Egypt by the orders of Joseph and the Pharaoh. All right, because Joseph was raised up to the status of like a president, or a co-regent with the Pharaoh, because of the dream that he explained through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Genesis 47:1. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren, and their flocks and their herds, and all that they have, are come out of the land of Canaan. See? And behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, what is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, For to sojourn in the, see, for to sojourn, that word sojourn means to dwell. All right, and that's what the Lord prophesied, that we were going to dwell in the land for 430 years. For to sojourn in the land are we come. For thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. See, it was a famine, 7-year famine, prophesied by the Lord and created by the Most High, Yahweh. Now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. So we became strangers in that land, all right? Especially our people, they started following the ways of the Egyptians and worshiping Molech and the golden calf. That's why they came out. They still wanted to worship that same golden calf or the owl, and they wanted to go back into Egypt and serve those idols. All right. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land, make thy father and brethren to dwell. So the Lord gave us the best of the land of Egypt. In the land of Goshen, let them dwell. And if thou knowest any man of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. All right. And Joseph brought in Jacob, his father. Remember, Jacob didn't want to go down there, but Jacob, his father, and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how old art thou? And I think at this point, Jacob was 130 years old. Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage, to my Isaac and Abraham. All right, so yeah, man. So that's it, man. That's when we went into Egypt. Period. All right, we went into Egypt, sojourned there. We became strangers there. Okay. And this happened in 1876. Now what happens? What happens if you take 1876 and you subtract 430 years? So like it. This is the date. Excuse me. 1876. All right. Subtract 430 years. And it equals what? John, be accurate, man. This is 1446. That's the time of the Exodus. And I'm gonna show you again why. All right. All right, 1446. That's when we came out of Egypt. So that's 430 years later, exactly. All right, let's go to 1 Kings 6:1 real quick. And it says, because you can use these scriptures as a measuring tool, a calculator. Timeline. 1 Kings 6:1. And it came to pass in the 480th year, so that's 480, after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt. They got your calendar right, your timeline right there. You gotta know how to count it. In the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, right? Solomon reigned really around 700. Some say 701, but really like 700 BCE. All right. So you subtract. Let me see. It says in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month that he began to build the house of Israel, house of Yahweh. All right. So it lets you know the timeline when the Lord built the house of the Lord, and that was let's get into. I'm gonna show you. Oh shit, Salaki. I just noticed I was saying 701. 701, that was dealing with Hezekiah. Sorry about the numbers. But it's supposed to be 971, all right? So, what's his name? Solomon was ruling from 970, okay? BCE. I always do that. I say the number thinking about Hezekiah. All right? So that was Hezekiah Sennacherib 701. But now what we're focusing on is the rulership of Solomon in 970 BC. All right. So now, hopefully I didn't confuse you with that, but yeah, let's continue. 971. All right. So they really become co-regents for like a year or so, and then around 970 he really started ruling after the death of David. King David died in 970 BCE. He ruled from 1011 to about 970. So now, 4 years, King Solomon started ruling in 970. He said, this scripture said, in the fourth year of King Solomon, so you subtract 4, that'd be 966. That's when the house of the Lord started being built with Solomon. So now it said 480 is when, after 480 years that we came out of Egypt, is when this happened. So let's add 480 to it. No, 6 equals 1466. 1446 again. All right, so that's the time of the Exodus, man. However you want to count it, however you want to calculate it. 1446 BCE. All right, you heard it here first. It is what it is, man. If you like it or not, hey, man, you know, truth is the truth. So it's 1446 BCE. However you calculate it, you can go to 1 Kings chapter 6 and calculate it, or you can go to this book, that chapter in Genesis, and calculate it, if you understand the dates, the proper timelines. All right, so now, with that being said, so we have the timeline from 1876, when we went into Egypt with Jacob, and we came out 430 years later, which was 1446. This prophecy happened already. All right. Then the Lord brought judgment upon the Amorites, and we came out with great substance. And I'm gonna read that for you. All right. Yahweh Ratazah. So this is Exodus 12 and 40. Now the sojourning, all right, meaning us dwelling, the dwelling of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years. So it happened. That prophecy happened. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self same day it came to pass, that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt, man. So in springtime, around April, February, April, March, April, you know, that's around the time of spring. So around that time, in the year 1446, where you had Tutmosis III, that was the pharaoh at that time, putting hell on our people, man. That's what they call him. His name was Tutmosis III. So this guy was the pharaoh at the time of Moses. All right. So we left out of there, and that prophecy started. You still had to clear those Amorites and those heathens out of the land, though. Let's get into it. All right, let's get straight into it. Exodus 12 and 23. Because the prophecy happened, it said we were going to come out with great substance. That's what he told Abraham, all right, almost 1,000-something years prior, all right, 1876. So with Jacob, it happened, all right. So the Lord told Abraham this prophecy before his death, man, in 1991 BC. Okay, so it was like at least 900,000-something years, or 1,000-something years earlier, prior. Okay, so now, Exodus 12 and 23, for Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. So the Lord, everybody knows this story, the night of the Passover, when the Lord passed over the children of Israel and he destroyed the Egyptians and their firstborn. All right. In this case, the Pharaoh, it was his oldest son, his firstborn. It was a custom for the older sons to sleep on the floor. All right, the princes. They would make them a pallet on the floor. And the Lord destroyed them. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your house to smite you, man. All right, so that destroyer is Yahweh Shai. He was the one. Yahweh Shai played the part of the death angel at this time. All right, and in this sense, the Lord is going to pass over the elect of Israel today, as long as that blood is upon that individual, the blood of Yahweh Shai. And ye shall. So I'm gonna get down to the point. All right. I think it's like in 35 or 30. Let's start from 30. Verse 30. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahweh as ye have said. He like basically get out of here, y'all. Like the more y'all hear, y'all burdened. See, the fact that Esau still got us here in America and around the world in captivity, that's their burden. They got the apple of the Lord's eye in their hands, man. Because always gonna be a curse unto these nations. All right, so this is clearly talking about an event that already happened. I don't see America in this at all. Since we read the prophecy of Genesis 15, it seemed like it played out in the scriptures I've read so far, right? Dealing with Jacob going into Egypt because of the famine, and then us coming out of Egypt 430 years later, after the pharaohs died off, and then the new pharaoh arose, Moses III, and they started putting hell on us, man. All right, and they started causing our people to build, doing hard labor, and we cry for deliverance. If you look up certain history, you'll see writings in Egyptian, but when it comes to the Lord's name, you'll see Yahweh. All right, so our people were speaking the Egyptian tongue, but we called on the Lord in the Hebrew that he gave to Moses about it, his name. So we were already speaking Hebrew, but a lot of our people were picking up that Egyptian tongue. Just like today, we speak American, English. But we call on the name of the Lord in the true Hebrew, true language. So we cried to be delivered, and the Lord delivered us. He sent Moses, all right? And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, we be all dead men if you don't get y'all the hell out of here. So they wanted the Israelites to get out of there, because they were being cursed by the Lord for having us there. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they what? They borrowed of the Egyptians silver, jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things that they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. Let me read this real quick. All right, let's get back to the prophecy real quick. Genesis 15 and 13. All right, because it said what? And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. See, we was in Egypt. All right, but the Lord is going to give us the land of Canaan. All right, and the nation whom they shall serve will I judge. See, the Lord was judging those Egyptians. The Egyptians said it anyway. They said, I and our people are wicked, and your people are righteous. So the Lord made them realize that. Before that, they were treating us like lower class citizens. They had bald heads, bald eyebrows, and they treated us like we were dirty because we had beards. All right. It says what? And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. All right, so I don't see how this dude, Banyam, whatever his name is, Banyamin or something like that, I could be wrong. It said with property, goods, okay, livestock, stores, utensils, everything. So we basically left out taking all their stuff. They gave it up for all that hard labor we were under. So now, man, so this prophecy happened. And then with Joshua, the Lord destroyed those Amorites. Read this. Okay, so the iniquity of the Amorites was done after Joshua. Verse 18, and in the same, Genesis 15:18, and in the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, which are the giants, and who? The Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So that's what the Lord was saying. We were going to challenge those African nations that were in that land. And the Amorites were one of them, the top ones. All right. All right, so Exodus 12:35. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. So the prophecy in an order. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. See, that's the prophecy that played out that the Lord said to Abraham in Genesis 15. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot, that were men beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and the flocks and the herds, even such cattle. So you can keep reading on and on. So verse 40, now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. And it is a night to be observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt, man. That's what it was setting up, the Passover. It had nothing to do with America today, man. It shows you that the Lord is going to judge those nations that have us in servitude, and that the Lord can take care of us and bring us out and deliver us and raise up saviors, and the Savior, Yahushua. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. All right. So yeah, man, let's get back to it. All right, man, do this couple scriptures. Exodus 3:16, make sure it's recording. Go and gather the elders of the children of Israel, and say unto them, Yahweh, the power of your fathers, the God of Abraham and Isaac and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. All right. So the Lord he saw us in Egypt and us being afflicted, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt after 430 years. All right. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt. He said this to Abraham in Genesis 15, unto the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites, and who? The Amorites. And we said that the affliction of the Amorites was not yet fulfilled. And the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And that land flowed with health and strength, and also healing for our nation. But also it literally has mountains that flow with honey, because the bees grow honey in the holes in the mountains. So we got mountains that flow honey down, man, and mountains that are drenched in olive oil, you know, and a lot of cattle. So, all right, let me get one more. All right, so now this goes into the first fruits. Exodus 23 and 19, the first fruits of the land, all right, the feast of first fruits. This is when we went into the land of Egypt, we were supposed to give of the crops or the first fruits of the land and dedicate it to the Lord. For the first fruits, the first of the fruits of thy land, so as soon as we touch that land, and we had to get ready to go to war with these African nations, all right, thou shalt bring into the house of Yahweh thy power, thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. That don't mean you can't eat a cheeseburger. You know, you got these idiots out here teaching that you can't put milk, which is in cheese, with a burger. No, that means literally don't put your animal inside the mother's milk and boil it. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. So it's a promise. Behold, beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee and bring thee unto who? The Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. All right, so that's when the Lord cut them off. And around the time Joshua crossed the Jordan River, that was 1406. That was 40 years later after we came out of Egypt, 1446. So yeah, man, from 1876 BCE all the way to 1446, that's 430 years. And this prophecy already happened, all right? Genesis 15 and 13. Now it should make more sense. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, the Africans, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age, 175 years old. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither, a thousand so years later. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So the Lord had to build that nation up to get us ready to go to war with them. All right, so with that, man, hey, that's the end of this prophecy. This guy is clearly going off.
Genesis 15th chapter is another historical and prophetic event. It's two different events, all right? Because Genesis, the 15th chapter, was referring to us coming over here to the Americans. It wasn't referring to the land of Egypt over in North Africa.